This webinar is being recorded. I apologize if that's a problem for anyone. I can always send the recording of this if you don't want to be on. You're not being subjected. None of your information is being shown. So if you're watching, uh, we're just recording this to have it available for other users as well. I'm Tim Schnur, Inquisitive IT. Thank you for attending today's cybersecurity training and user awareness webinar. We'll jump right into it. So the agenda is we're going to go through a couple stories to basically give you some context of how these attacks, cyber attacks might happen. What are some of the things that attackers leverage? What are the results of them? How they might be protected? And then we'll talk about just the goals and some of the tips and tricks that we can use to prevent these things from happening and keep you safe online. I'm familiar with this story very well. So, a couple is about to get married, and they're going to have a big elaborate wedding, and they hire a series of vendors. And the vendor, one of the vendors' email, maybe the person arranging the wedding gets hacked. We consider this to be business email compromise. So they no longer have access to their email. So they're sending invoices. They look legitimate. They are legitimate because they have the actual templates and everything. And they're asking for payment before the wedding. They're hastily acting demands of the payment because they're saying they need to be paid, creating fake deadlines. But regardless, like I said, it looks real. It's legitimate. It's reasonable. And the invoices are paid, but the bank account, obviously, it's going to the attacker's bank account and not to the actual vendors. Unfortunately, this resulted in $600,000 of losses. Yes, expensive wedding. Vendor goes under. Several of the other vendors, I think, were also caught up in this, and the couple has to absorb the losses. So this is a very difficult thing because in this case, the couple did not actually get attacked. It was actually a vendor sending false invoices, and typically with the bigger company, they'd have to cover the losses here. But you have to be really careful with any kind of ACH payments and wires. You have to go out and confirm through alternate channels that the payments are legitimate. I've become very wary of this just after hearing this story. So make sure you look up the number in your phone, or you look up the number from some credible source. Call the vendor, confirm the wire and information, the amount of the wire, things like that. Because in these cases, until you have those account and routing information in your payment, bill pay for your bank, there's a chance that something like this can happen. The next one, this is a rather sophisticated attack. Kathy, friend of my mom's, phone all of a sudden stops working while out running errands. This is not that uncommon, right? Cell phones aren't perfect. You might lose reception. You might lose service because you're in a bad area. She goes home and tries to call the cell provider after she knows it should be working at home. She's informed that there was a SIM swap. So basically, the attackers were able to gather enough information on her, either through the dark web, which is a black market online where hackers and attackers trade information to use for attacks like this. She may have been phished with a fake link, a fake Amazon link, a fake FedEx link. And that may have been a way to divulge or basically get to information, but there's many ways that this can happen. And what happened was, once they were able to get that SIM swapped over, it escalates the problems that may happen, because your phone is your identity in the United States. They call you to confirm, they text you 6-digit text message codes to validate your account, to authenticate, to get into things. So while this is happening, the attackers quickly were able to steal some money for some bank accounts. And there's some solutions we'll talk about a little later here that basically can stop these things, even if your information is improvised, is basically available in the dark web or the black market. And there are some things here that can stop this from happening. Identity theft is another thing. Like I said, your information on social media might be stolen, breached, vendors breached. Recently, I wrote a post on LinkedIn about a company that I get help, protein supplies or things like that, and my phone, my email, my address, nothing really detrimental, but it just shows that vendors and AT&T, and we'll talk about a big healthcare one here in a second, get breached all the time. Attackers can use and leverage this information collectively. And so, in this case, her password, she was using a common password across the internet. And the impersonator was able to open, full identity theft, cable, heat, electricity, credit cards, newspaper subscriptions. This is just a mess in court, and court is not an easy place to be. It's not a place you want to be. And it is, the law is tricky from state to state. So you want to avoid getting in this situation by protecting your information online as much as you can. There's some other services we'll talk about here. There's scans out there on the black web, on the black market, and on the dark web. You can protect your accounts better with better practices and hygiene and routines that we'll talk about. Some of the ways to protect your access and being phished and being getting hold of your accounts. United Healthcare, they said 1/3 of Americans were able, basically their healthcare information was compromised. This healthcare provider, which is a world-class, enormous organization, was missing MFA, multi-factor authentication, on one of its accounts. So they'll probably be in a little bit of hot water for the rest of 2024. So what are some of the strategies? I don't want to go too far into the stories. I use this analogy quite often about, the African savanna. Antelope are running across it, and there's predators like lions that are attacking. As an individual, the question is, how much do I spend on cybersecurity? What do I do? How much is enough? And I like to say, you just don't want to be last, and you don't want to be in the back of the pack. So you want to lower your risk exposure. You want to become less attractive. You don't necessarily have to be all the way at the front running away, but you want to be in the middle, and you want to deploy just enough security to avoid these attacks. So multi-layer approach, talk about people, processes, and technology. It's a common term used in cybersecurity. What are some of the things we can do to stop these very common attacks we just mentioned? The first is, and some people might already have this habit, but you want to separate your personal email and online activities from your call it critical email, like bank accounts, investing accounts, healthcare, taxes, bills, things like that. You want to the degree that you want to do this differs, but you don't want to have kind of too many vendors tied to one email address where they can, potentially it just causes problems from a phishing perspective. But like I said, separating this wealth and personal is a good habit to have. Most important thing, and I'll stress today, is using a password manager. A lot of security experts, they debate this, because if this password manager gets compromised, you can give up all your passwords. But currently, a lot of people are kind of using the same password. We're changing it just slightly, and that is an extremely bad habit. It's very easy to find on the dark web or be phished, and you have contagion across all of your accounts. So using a password manager, complex and unique passwords, extremely long. They're anywhere from 12 to 30 digits and just total random characters. And in the future with quantum computing, they may be 5,000, 10,000 characters. So password managers are not going away. We'll talk about how you could protect the password manager. Typically, they're from very big tech companies like Google, Microsoft, Apple. So the other thing you may want to do as well is, like I said, using the email for financial purposes and your everyday email account for others. So you have two different email addresses. You may even have different technology. That's one thing we like to recommend. You may have a specific laptop or enclave. It doesn't necessarily have to be a laptop, but it could be a Google Workspace, which is dedicated to financial services and investing. And then you'll have the other, a smaller bank account that has less money in it and it has less controls. So you have all your, you have 95% of your assets in the financial services enclave, the bank accounts there, the access is there. And then you have a smaller savings or checking account that is getting pushed money from from the investment account. This prevents a lot of problems and some of the big losses we take off the board. Some of the other technology we use, and this is a really important thing, this thing called passkeys, which are very new. They're cryptographic private and public keys. Basically, what it does is it binds the device, your phone, your laptop, to you. No longer are you relying on the phone number, which, as we heard before, could be compromised. And that's a big deal because a lot of attackers are in foreign countries like China and Russia and North Korea. If they don't have the device, they cannot access your account. So you're taking these geographic players off the board, and you're using this. The other thing is it's extremely easy. You just show your face. You don't have to type the password in. You're going to love this because it's going to combined with a password manager, it's going to make your life extremely easy. One problem is you have to use passkeys for each service. Unfortunately, the passkeys can be held in a wallet as well, but they work the same way. So they bind it to the device. So that's one of the biggest things that we set up for our clients, and we think it's really important. Anyone can do this. Amazon, my wife's account was stolen multiple times, and now it's not going to happen anymore with the passkey. You actually can have a passkey for each of us on it. So it makes it easy to share an account. Google, Apple keychain, that's actually the Apple sign with the smile down there. YubiKeys are also mimicking the same technology. They're not mimicking, it's probably even more secure. But this plugs into your either phone or your laptop. And since we need two ways, we kind of need a backup way as well. This may be your safety key if you lose a phone, you need to reset things. But we want to take away the weaker forms of multi-factor authentication, like 6-digit codes or those authenticator apps or phone calls, right? So this is much safer because of that cryptographic binding, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. So why not just embrace it? Other things we recommend: vulnerability scan. Vulnerabilities are software bugs. Trillions of lines of code out there that no matter how software is developed, with all that code, there's bugs, and the bugs are important because if you get a phishing email and you click on something, they may activate scripts that leverages those bugs. Same thing, similar to number 8 is configuration management. You get a brand new Windows laptop. The way it's going to be configured is going to allow you, it's going to be very easy for attackers to compromise that machine. So number 5 is kind of like a fire alarm in your house. You want to have endpoint detection, EDR. That's what that stands for. So you're tracking when you want to understand when you get compromised so you can act accordingly. Reset passwords, quarantine things. This is a rather resource intensive procedure. We like to call it reactive, like you're detective and preventing, as opposed to preventing. But it's something that I think, there's a lot of debate in the cybersecurity industry. You got to have this, right? You got to have a fire alarm in your house. Number 6, manage browser. Browsers can be configured to allow certain websites and disallow others. So just consider, you're managing a browser for your children. They can only get on 1 site or 5 sites or 10 sites. Think about that same concept for adults. You can really clamp down and reduce the amount of potential things that you can activate in your banking and investing zone. Someone sends you a false a malware phishing link. It won't go through because it's not on the allow list to go through. So that can prevent those attacks. Dedicated backups in case something happens, you don't lose things. Google Workspace, Apple iCloud are some of the common ones. Dropbox. We're not in the enterprise world, so those are pretty common. And we need to constantly be monitoring and looking for new solutions as the attacker landscapes evolves and these new attacks come along. That's really our role for our clients. Like I said, password managers make everything easy. Here's an example of a password manager that I had. This is I believe, Google Password Manager. Unique password every time. Incredibly long and hard to break computationally, maybe even quantum, which will, use these computers in the future. So I think this is something that's going to stay. You don't have to remember them. They're available on both your phone and laptop. iCloud Keychain is the other one. That's pretty common. So there's no shortcuts. So there's another thing with links and phishing. Don't click on them. The other way to avoid being phished is to always navigate to the safe web page and log in that way. I like to say, don't pass go, always start at go. There's no shortcuts. And there's plenty of red flags here. Messages urgently asking for money or a red flag. There's other fraud in Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. Zelle fraud is very common. Giving the wrong IDs, pretending to be someone you're not. So that's, it seems to be much more common than Venmo and PayPal. Invoice manipulation, we talked about that with the wedding. You really need to be careful about that. Anytime you're sending wires for the first time to a new, you're putting in new banking and routing numbers, find alternative ways and be creative to contact them and affirm that that is the correct information and it's not a faulty fake invoice from an attacker. Like I said, don't click on links. Always navigate to safe communications, which would be the website's starting page. There's no shortcuts. Call and verify known phone numbers, phone to confirm wire and ACH details. Turn on bank and credit card notifications of payments. They'll text you anytime you use your card. Some people like to do it over 100. Some people like to get every payment. I don't mind getting these alerts every time a payment is made. It gets you starting to be used to like when the card is being used, and you develops a good habit just to kind of understand what's happening there. Enable Apple Pay for small payments. Avoid card readers if it's inconvenient. And like I said, the Apple Pay is great because it's usually more secure. Your actual number is not exposed like in a restaurant. A lot of credit card fraud happens that way. One of the staff takes a picture of your credit card and uses it online. So Apple Pay is better. This is why in Europe they've been using that paying at the table forever. Multi-party approval is something new. Think about the nuclear football. Like there has to be multiple people keying in saying they want to launch the nukes. Not a good joke, not a good analogy, but same kind of concept. You want to add a new user to your account. You want to reset somebody's password. This is something we plan on using when it's coming on here shortly in Google Workplace. Password managers are great. So it's really easy. And we using that in conjunction with a YubiKey or a passkey. It's really important. Do not store creds for business Google. This is another thing. So, that account for your financial account, maybe you don't put that on your keychain, so it's not able to be accessed. You'll still be using a passkey, but it's also another good practice to have, they'll be double safe here. From a home perspective, Wi-Fi best practices, well, I guess we'll talk about at a home. You travel abroad, the phone doesn't work, you get to an airport, it looks like a safe Wi-Fi. You want to be able to call a taxi. This is a great way to attackers to, fake and mimic a Wi-Fi, legitimate Wi-Fi source in an airport, and then your phone may be taken over or attacked, or at least eavesdropped in between those communications. Always use a hotspot, which would be your just cell phone. Not use If you are going to use public Wi-Fi, use a VPN, a virtual private network. These are very cheap, very common. Cloudflare is actually free, so I actually have it enabled right here on my computer. There's advantages to it as well from a speed perspective and a privacy perspective. We talked about man-in-the-middle attack a little bit. Other best practices: create a data legacy plan on Google. This will basically, if someone passes away or you get hurt or injured, the account's inactive for a short amount of time, it'll actually be opened up and available to one of your loved ones. Authentication best practices. Now that we have these great passkeys and YubiKeys, we're going to get rid of the old unsafe things so they don't get leveraged by attackers. Create another email account. We talked about that specifically for financial and one for personal. We didn't talk about this. A dark web scan and the black market scan. Google One offers one for free. Like I said in my story, I just recently was breached for one of these, online e-vendors, and I became aware of it through Google One, and I still haven't heard from that vendor, and it's been a week. Use passkeys as well. They're available on LinkedIn and WhatsApp. Not sure about Facebook yet, but I was surprised that WhatsApp had one. If you're looking to know where you can use passkeys on, passkeys.directory lists all the vendors globally that offer them, and it's growing incredibly quickly just because it's really intercepting a lot of these phishing campaigns. AI applications like ChatGPT and Gemini, they own your data forever. So understand the terms and conditions and don't input sensitive data into those, as the data can be used randomly by someone. Setting up a guest network on a home router is a good idea. So you can separate, call them less safe devices like Ring doorbells, IoT devices, cameras, refrigerators, vacuums, TVs. Set up a guest network as a separate network, so you're not sharing that internet traffic on your computer for financial services or even your personal email and phone usage. So using a guest network is something really easy to do. The other thing they talk about is disabling the initial settings. That's the less common. It used to just be like password 123 and you can get into any router. That's less common as if your router is fairly new, but you still want to use a guest network. This breaks down some of the attacks as well. I did a quick post on LinkedIn recently, but you can really see how passkeys are incredibly important and incredibly effective to breaking up, you know, at least half of the major attacks that are happening today. So embrace passkeys, embrace a password manager, and that's about it. We were going to go through some of the common attack playbooks as well, but I'm going to put that as an addendum and I'll post that as well. But I appreciate everyone for jumping in on this webinar. And I'm Tim Schnur. Reach out, tim@inquisitiveit.com. Here to help any way I can. Any questions about this, please reach out. Cheers.